How can you keep working on your comic, especially when it's your first comic, when you are intimidated by the entire process? There's so much that we need to learn at the start. There's so much that we need to figure out. How do you prevent overwhelm? And that's what this video is all about. Welcome back to Pencils and Stories. My name is Henrike and I make and teach comics. And if you want to make your own comics, then subscribe to this YouTube channel for weekly videos. I remember restarting making comics again after a long art block. And I just remember how much stuff I had to figure out. Like, I always had made comics for myself and, for little student magazines and stuff like that. But I really wanted to make a professional comic. And I was just, at certain times, I was so intimidated. And slowly I got into the process and I actually figured out how I could prevent overwhelm. It's rare right now that I am overwhelmed. Sometimes I still get overwhelmed when I have certain large panels I need to do, but that's more like a drawing overwhelm than it is a comic process overwhelm, if that makes any sense. Comic process does not overwhelm me anymore. I know how to make comics now, but also I know what I need to be doing whenever I start feeling overwhelmed with the whole thing. Because let's face it, I am making a comic that is multiple hundreds of pages, and it's just a long, big project. So how did I manage to not get super overwhelmed and quit? At first, you need to learn the comic process. There's no way around it, and at first it is going to be awkward. I actually made a video about me making my first comic page and how awkward I felt about my whole process because I still had to figure that out. You can actually watch that video right here. I will link to it above and in the description. But making your first comic pages, it will be awkward, and you need to figure out this process. And if it's new to you, it's new. So that means a lot of learning really fast and a lot of new things coming at you. So don't be too scared if you feel a little bit of overwhelm, especially at the beginning, because it's normal. That's why I also advocate for starting with shorter comics. Don't immediately, if this is your first comic, don't immediately dive into a giant comic. Like, I had made a lot of short comics in my life. They weren't like super pro, but I made a lot of short stories and multiple attempts at longer ones, before I started Recollection City, and I knew what I was getting into. So I recommend starting with a shorter comic at first. And then there's the comic process itself. And it can feel like a giant undertaking, but actually just a comic page or just making a comic in general is split up into multiple sub tasks. So you have story, you have designing stuff, you have making the pages themselves, and then the pages are divided into making a script in whatever simple format that you can, doing thumbnails for your page, layout and lettering on there. You can even do the lettering before you do your thumbnails, because then you will know where all the text is, and then you know how much room you still have for all your drawings, sketching, drawing, inking, and color and any effects. And some stuff you do once, like for example the story, but you always kind of tinker with it, and you always make things better. You always are working on your dialogues to make them even better until the page is done. This is a process that you will go through, and eventually those steps will all come natural to you and you don't have to think about them anymore. But especially at first, it can feel really overwhelming. And that brings me to my next tip, which is don't look too far ahead. I work in batches of pages, and I have figured out for myself when it starts to feel like too much. For me, it's around 7 pages. I cannot work on more than 7 pages at once, because that will start to overwhelm me. For you, it might be 3. For you, it might be 10. It's all fine. Some people even, I don't like that, but some people do this. They will thumbnail the entire comic, then they will draw the entire comic, then they will ink the entire thing, and so on and so on. I need a lot of variety in what I'm doing. So I would not be happy having to work on just comic inks for months and months and months, let me tell you. But if that's something that you like to do and you want to have a sense of completion, definitely go for that. Don't look, even if you do that, don't look too far ahead. If you're deep into the thumbnail stage, don't go start worrying about how much stuff you still need to be doing, because it also needs to be drawn and inked. And what really helps me is to focus on one small batch of things and then one task for that. And then I just stopped thinking about the rest of the comic. I stopped thinking about all the stuff that's coming up. I stopped thinking about even panels on the same page that I'm not drawing at that time. I just try not to think about that, because I just try to focus on what I'm doing right now in order not to be overwhelmed. Because if you constantly look at how far you still have to go, that can become really overwhelming. Just look at the scenery around you right now. Get really good, that's my next tip, get really good and at splitting larger tasks into mini tasks. When we're talking about not getting overwhelmed, that is one of the biggest things that helped me, was really learning. And it differs day to day. Like on some days I will have on my to-do list sketch page 150, and on some days I have a tendency to get overwhelmed and I will just write, lay in the basic perspective and the basic poses for panel 1. I've had days at which I was exhausted and all I could do was letter. Some people have a giant job next to their comic, or they have a family, or they're chronically ill, or whatever it is, and your energy levels just fluctuate a lot. You can go really, really tiny with your tasks if you want to. I actually have another video called Comic Game Plan, and you could take the tasks from that video and even break them down to make them manageable for you. And that's the biggest weapon you have against overwhelm. Because if you can break down a task to something that is small enough so it feels doable for you, that was the biggest thing for me. Like for the longest time, the tagline for Pencils and Stories was small steps to more creativity. Because the way I got out of art block was by learning how to break down all of these overwhelming things into such tiny tasks. I just knew what I was doing. I made the task really concrete. I wouldn't put in make comic page or sketch or whatever. I just sketch the first 3 panels of page 249. Make it that specific. Get really good at that. And then on days where you're still overwhelmed, you will be able to take the task that you thought was doable and break it down even further until it is something that you can actually do, even with your current energy level and even with feeling overwhelmed. You don't have to do all the guesswork though in order to figure out how exactly to make a comic, because I have 2 tips for you that you can follow. First of all, I have made a new freebie. If you sign up for my email list, and I am working on a really great list of emails that I can just send out automatically that really give you a lot of value about making your own comics. But if you sign up, you will immediately get my new freebie, which is the ultimate checklist to start your comic. You can go to the link in the description, sign up for my email list, and as a reward for doing so, you will get that PDF. And then you will always also get those emails that are all about making comics. The second thing you can do is put yourself on a notification list to be notified when my new course launches. I'm launching a course on Kickstarter called How to Start a Comic, and it will take you through the entire process of coming up with the idea, figuring out story, designing your comic, making things easier for yourself using templates, shortcuts, all the way to making your first pages. If you want to have all the guesswork done for you, and by guesswork I mean figuring out all the stuff that is essential for you to be able to start your comic and not doing anything that you don't need to be doing, because that's just wasting time, then do my course, because I figured it all out for you. You can follow the steps, and by the end you will have your complete starter kit for you to be able to start making your pages, and then we'll have a whole module about how to do that as well. So sign up for the notification list, it's in the description below. That was it for this week's video. I'm super excited to see more people starting their comics. People told me. That's why I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If it was valuable to you, please leave it a thumbs up so I know to make more videos like these, and also YouTube knows to recommend this video to other people who might be wanting to make comics. So thank you so much for all your support, and for now, have a great day and go and make some comics.